Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of boys. It is your host with the most, the DOUG, here for another episode of Revolutions on Earth. Thank you. And tonight's legend is brought to you by Olmec, who has a story for each legend of his temple. And what is the story today, Olmec? The Legend of WCW Halloween Havoc. That is what we'll be discussing since it is Halloween night. Halloween Havoc, WCW's pay-per-view from the past. It is the 25th anniversary if they were still around. Now, of course, joining me tonight, he's representing the Green Monkeys. It is the Ghost of Test. Hey, Ghost of Test, by the way, in case many of you did not know, because it broke doing off the show, he is my co-host now, so he is a co-host. Congratulations to the Ghost of Test. And, Ghost of Test, how are you doing tonight?
I am okay. And yourself?
I'm doing good. Now, unfortunately, our two favorite Canadians, Rob and Bernadette, cannot be here tonight because they got lost in the dark forest, because they forgot the first rule about legends. Make sure you stay away from the temple guards. But, me and Test are here, and let's get this show on the road. Halloween Havoc. What do you remember about it, Test?
That it was on Halloween or around there, and it was WCW's fall show, I believe, even before Fall Brawl.
That would be a little bit correct. This was the big Fall show. Granted, it would have happened after Fall Brawl, but they never really promoted Fall Brawl as much as they did as Halloween Havoc. Now, of course, just to clarify it there, the first two Halloween Havocs were when they were still with the NWA, back when, you know, they actually gave a crap about their company before they decided to say, Ted Turner, come suck our dick and here you go. NWA's Halloween Havocs were very different. They actually wrestled, which I'm sure most WCW fans consider wrestling just, you know, Hulk Hogan going in there, taking a dump on the match, and moving on. Of course, Ghost of Test, I know there's one match you wanted to talk about specifically before we get to the shit, and that was Sting versus Jake Roberts, if I am correct.
Yeah. That's I think the only actually Halloween Havoc that I really cared to watch, because I thought it was so cool how Ron Simmons, you know, came out to face the Barbarian and hit his diving headbutt. I think actually Barbarian hit that from about halfway across the ring too. I think that was a good match on that show.
Yes, Ron Simmons, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that was Halloween Havoc 1992 with the tagline, spin the wheel, make the deal, which we were discussing a little bit, but the match Tess was talking about was for the WCW World Championship, Ron Simmons versus the Barbarian. This would be the first time in history that you would see two black athletes compete for the world. Oh, wait, was the Barbarian black or Samoan?
I think he was Samoan.
I'm going to be honest, and people can just say I'm being an asshole, but I can't tell the fucking difference between a Samoan and a black person. Thank you, Rock, for fucking that up for everybody.
Right?
But anyway, it was not the main event, because like we said, it was Jake Roberts and Sting. Now, this was a part of the spin the wheel, make the deal gimmick, which you only had at this Halloween Havoc and the next one, to where you would spin the wheel, and whatever it landed on, that would be the match. Kind of think of WWF Raw's Vegas roulette wheel, if you remember that from a few years ago when Eric Bischoff was wrestling, or was in WWF, I should say. So, yeah, it landed on Coal Miner's glove. Pretty much the glove was loaded. Now, what's interesting here, this would be the only time Jake Roberts would main event a WCW pay-per-view.
Isn't that the first time he ever main evented any pay-per-view?
It actually, I think it is, yes. This would be the first pay-per-view he ever main evented as well, which, I got to say, if he went in there with Sting, who at the time was the biggest man in the company, unfortunately on the same token, it is remembered because it is a spin the wheel, make the deal, but it's one of the Halloween Havocs that get lost in the shuffle because all we remember are the crap Halloween Havocs. But just to give everyone a remember, of course, before we got to 95, You saw Johnny Ace wrestle on Halloween Havoc. You saw Kevin Nash, a young Kevin Nash, when he was a part of the Master Blasters, competing on Halloween Havoc. So there was a lot of young guys who competed on this because it was kind of like the young guys show, because you would see a lot of the younger talent get to be on this one, because most of the older guys were like, yeah, we're not fucking wrestling in October. Fuck you.
You would have thought, that Kevin Nash's character Oz would have made an appearance at Halloween Havoc, being that he had a mask on, and with Harley Race being the little whatever fucker he was.
You would think, but nope, that did not happen. And just, by the way, I watched all the WCW Halloween Havocs today. Let me just tell you this. Whoever decided that the Master Blasters, Blade and Steel, a.k.a. Kevin Nash, and whoever the fuck the other guy was, versus Terry Smothers and Steve Armstrong, who had Jim Cornette in the corner with a good match, should have been fired immediately.
God, the young
If you want to see a shit tag team match, there you go.
I think Jenna and Sharmell are begging to see us again.
Yeah, that made me actually want to watch that match. That's how bad that was. But, like I said, there were some good matches. You had Sting versus Stan Hansen, the great Stan Hansen. Actually won the United States title at a Halloween Havoc when he defeated Lex Luger. We don't remember who that guy is, right?
Oh, yeah. Stan Hansen was legitimately blind, so when he did his lariat, nobody knew where it hit him.
Correct. Now,
and in fact, here I'm going to throw another deal to you, to Stan Hansen. I know you and I are big fans of Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
The real man, whatever the fuck his name is, that is actually Stan Hansen's nephew.
Wow, no wonder he looks like a mean, tough son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Putting it nicely. Now, of course, jumping ahead before we get to where me and the Ghost of Texas want to kill ourselves with this pay-per-views, 1993 Halloween Havoc would be considered to be many, but the last good one for quite a while, because it was still back when they cared. The main event was Vader versus Cactus Jack, and it was not for the title. This was all about revenge for Cactus Jack, payback. Unfortunately, Vader beat the fuck out of him. That's nothing new, folks.
Was that right before that Cactus Jack did he had insomnia and couldn't remember?
That was actually part of the gimmick for this match, that when Vader ripped Cactus's ear off, Cactus went into seclusion, and when Cactus came back from his amnesia, this was actually his first match back. So,
I remember.
Very violent match. If you want to see a violent match before the hardcore Attitude Era, this one would do it, because you saw tasers, you saw chairs, you saw, I think Harley Race even got a cut on his arm from this match. A lot of people left bloody that night.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Unfortunately, it was some bad, because from 94 on, the pay-per-views would suck for one reason. Would you like to take a guess why that is, Ghost to Test?
Vince Russo booked him?
Nope, Hulk Hogan.
Ah. I actually thought the other one I remember seeing when the Outsiders first appeared versus Harlem Heat for the tag team titles. That's the other one I saw.
Can you repeat that again, Tess? I unfortunately missed that.
It was the Harlem Heat versus the Outsiders, when the Outsiders won the tag team titles.
Yes, that was 96, I believe. Which was a good match, but you could tell when Hogan came in, the product changed because it became more boring. Of course, I'll bring up 1995's Halloween Havoc, which is infamous, and not in the good way. Okay, when we say shit, this is the definition of shit. Before the title match between Hogan and the Giant, a.k.a. the Big Show, they had a sumo wrestling truck match. I just want everyone to think about that for a minute.
All I can think about is Earthquake and Yokozuna driving a semi-truck or a monster truck.
Pretty much what it was. And the sad thing is, A, it was taped. B, the ending where Giant accidentally fell over the building and apparently died. I'm like, who the fuck came up with this? And then I got to remember, oh, yeah, that's right, Dusty Rhodes came up with this idea, folks.
He was the booker. Okay. That explains it.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, the Geno Smith of professional wrestling when it comes to booking. No laugh track on that one. Okay, maybe that wasn't a good joke. But, of course, this would also be the same pay-per-view that would be remembered for one thing, the Yeti.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Was that Elegante?
I don't know who it was. No one, Wikipedia doesn't even mention who it was, and I've looked everywhere, but no one knows who the Yeti was at all. At all. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if anybody finds out who the Yeti was.
I bet you if Rob and Bernadette hear this, I bet you Bernadette would know. Yeah, of course, like, what's weird about this was also when the Giant won the WCW title by disqualification. Yeah, apparently the story was that Jimmy Hart, who was managing Hogan at the time, had power of attorney. The thing is, and this is when Jimmy Hart turned heel again, he signed the contract stating if Hogan got disqualified, the Giant would win the title. Long story short, all the crap happened. Giant won by disqualification. Giant's Junior WCW champion, which would lead to Randy Savage winning the belt at World War III in the next month pay-per-view. But the other thing is the Yeti would only have 2 matches on a pay-per-view. Well, no, not even 2. He would only be on 2 pay-per-views. Halloween Havoc 95, and of course World War III 95 when he got eliminated in the first 2 minutes from the 16-man Battle Royal. Was that before or after the Dungeon of Doom with the Giant?
That was still with the Dungeon of Doom.
Okay.
Then we head to 96, which is when the NWO happened. We all know the NWO. 96 is considered to be the, how can I say this, the redheaded stepchild of the pay-per-view of them, because it wasn't bad, but you kind of started to see if you were part of the NWO, you were going to win every freaking match you were in. So, yeah. Not saying that's a bad thing, but, you know.
It was predictable because you had Hogan on the card.
Yeah, it's just, by the way, let me just, because I have it, the main event for 96, folks, was Hogan and Savage. If this was back when it was WrestleMania 5, yeah, WrestleMania 5, great. 96, no. And by the way, it had interference. You had Roddy Piper, Miss Elizabeth, the Giant. I even think Andre the Giant Spirit came out and said, this is crap.
Probably.
And by the way, from 1996 on, all the pay-per-views would take place in Las Vegas, which is unfortunate.
You know, I never thought about that, but you're right.
Now, of course, before we get to the pay-per-view we all hated from Halloween Havoc, let's talk about the match that won match of the year in 97, Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Eddie Guerrero for the Cruiserweight title. This was a match versus title match, not really seen too much in the United States at that time. Very great match. It's the one match I can recommend from that pay-per-view because when one of the other matches you highlight is Jacqueline versus Disco Inferno and Alex Wright versus Steve Mongo McMichael, which was completely botched by Bill Goldberg because he was supposed to spear Mongo when the ref wasn't looking, and the ref saw Goldberg hit the spear anyway, and the ref then called for disqualification. That's what you call stupidity.
Wow. Russia booked that one, right? No
yeah.
hope, bro.
And I know we're going through these quick, guys, but it is Halloween night. We want everyone to be safe tonight. Now, of course, let's get to the Halloween Havoc we all know, the one that gets the most talked about for all the wrong reasons. Would you like to take a guess what that one is, Test?
I'm going to guess that was Sting versus Rick Rude.
Nope. That would be Halloween Havoc 98. You remember that one, don't you?
Probably so, but it's probably so horrible I want to forget it.
You and me both, brother. This was the pay-per-view that had Hogan versus Warrior 2.
Ugh.
Yeah, that match won worst match of the year, and it's been talked about why it was bad. And of course, this was the one with DDP versus Bill Goldberg. But if you ordered the pay-per-view that night, guess what? You didn't get to see Bill Goldberg and DDP in this match because WCW forgot to tell everyone that the pay-per-view would be 2.5 hours long compared to, normally it being 3 hours. Nowadays, with WWE being on the network, you don't really have to worry about time. But back then, you had to. So, right at the end of Hogan versus Warrior, the screams went out. A lot of people missed that match between DDP versus Goldberg, which, believe it or not, was Bill Goldberg's best match when he was champion. Let that sit in there for a minute, folks. Goldberg's best match as champion was against a guy who was already in his 40s. Of course, here's the worst part. The next night on Nitro, guess what they had to show for free in its entirety?
The match.
The match with DDP and Bill Goldberg, else they would have faced a lawsuit because most people, let's be honest here. Test, if you were ordered a pay-per-view and you didn't get to see the last match because it went out, wouldn't you feel jaded? Wouldn't you want your money back?
I'd be saying, Russo, where's my money?
Yes, I would as well. Now, that being said, Warrior and Hogan, this match is pretty much unfortunately, the cover of Halloween Havoc because it's the match we all remember. Booked bad, ending was bad, the whole match was bad, okay? This match, I think, has even been shown in its entirety on Botchamania. Okay? Let that sit in there. Botchamania has shown this whole match. Yeah. Bad ending. Hogan was supposed to use the flame paper on Warrior's face. That didn't work. Hogan set his eyebrows on fire. The ending was Horse Hogan helping Hogan win.
God.
Yeah, it means Gene Oakland said it's probably the worst match he's ever watched, which that should say something. Gene Oakland says it was bad. Yeah. Now, before we can continue on, 98. If anybody out there listening wants to watch it, do yourself a favor. Don't do it. Go watch golf. Go watch the Jets. You'll be having a better time. Better yet, go watch the
Paul
Oakland Raiders.
Barton, that means you. As big as a WCW fan as you were, that means you. Don't watch.
But you have a better idea. You go to Canada and you pick on Rob and call him the Mountain because that'd be more entertaining than watching Halloween Havoc 98.
Oh God. Oh wow. We had to go there. We know we did. That's awesome.
Now,
but wasn't Sting versus Rude? Did we ever talk about that one?
No, we did not. I'm trying to save that for when Sting makes his debut in WWE.
Oh. Somebody called it.
Oh, who just came in?
It's Fresh.
Oh, hey, Fresh. We're talking about Halloween Havoc.
Well, where do you want to start? How it was a growing WCW tradition, and then it kind of tanked left field?
We just got done talking about Hogan versus Warrior.
That probably is the worst main event in all of WCW history.
Sad thing is that wasn't the main event.
I know. I would have rather Goldberg and DDP go on before Warrior Hogan and then the pay-per-view cut out.
Yeah, that would have been better because no one would have noticed. But just to give an example of how bad WCW was, since we actually have to go soon because I know time's running out, the last Halloween Havoc had Hacksaw Jim Duggan as part of Team Canada. Yeah.
Yes, Halloween Havoc 2000 was fucking terrible.
Yeah, that was the last one, which is also remembered only because of between Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Bill Goldberg knocking himself the fuck out in 1 minute.
I mean, there were some bright spots to Halloween Havoc 2000.
Now, what's your favorite bright spot?
I mean, Sting and Jarrett was a good match. I thought it was unique how Jarrett had the army of Sting, so it was like, that was cool. That was a bright spot. Like, he was wrestling Jared, then everybody was dressed like they had Surfer Sting, then they had Sting from the 90s come out, then they had they had some Crow Stings. So, I mean, that was cool. And the Big Bad Booty Daddy was in the main event. I was great.
That. Yeah, I remember that. Steiner versus Booker T for the world title.
I mean, WCW, it only tanked left field. I mean, if all the sets stopped looking like each other by 2000, it would have been all right. I mean, they got away from the big pumpkin, and, like, where the fuck did everything go? I like the big pumpkin with the dude behind it holding up the tombstone. I thought it was cool. Yeah.
I agree now.
You paid $39.95 for a pay-per-view and look like you're watching Nitro. It's fucking terrible.
That's the truth, my friend. Now, unfortunately, it looks like we're running out of time tonight because, like I said, we were not a lot of time tonight because it is Halloween and all that. So don't forget, we do have other shows here on the RWF hotline. And, of course, we have our shows after Monday nights with L. We discuss what happened on Raw. Of course, we have Face Off on Tuesday nights, which I believe we're in the finals of that championship tournament. And, of course, Thursday with Rob and Bernadette from Shooting in the Hip. Now, of course, if you want to join all these numbers, Test, you know the number, right?
Yep.
Well, then, lay it on it.
It is 1-559-726-1300. And after this, 742021, and hit the pound key so we can make sure we know you're there.
Well, Fresh, I would like to thank you for the time you were able to come in tonight.
Yes, thank you, Fresh.
Thank you, Fresh, and Tess, thank you for joining us tonight as well. And next week we'll be back to our normalcy thing with Revolution Dawn. We'll be talking about getting ready for Survivor Series, of course, the new United States Championship match, Rusev versus Sheamus, a.k.a. Ireland versus USSR for the U.S. title. The only American in this match will be the referee, most likely.
Isn't that ironic? Two foreigners fighting over an American-made belt. What type of shit is this? Who's booking this crap?
Probably Dusty Rhodes.
I blame Russo. Who said Russo? I'm with you.
I did.
It's all Russo's fucking fault.
Looking Dusty, unbelievable. But it is what it is. We'll also talk about AJ versus Nikki Bella since that's the Divas title match. God help us. So until next Friday night, have a good, safe Halloween, guys, and we will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.